Let's see, testing audio. How does this sound? I think that's pretty good. Everything seems to be working. Okay, let's get into this. All right, so again, I'm working on the open world. And the scene is kind of going through a transitional phase. I created this little island section a long time ago, and it's pretty fully detailed and laid out pretty nicely. And then I have these 3 road sections that go into the larger part of the island. And when I came back to this project, I had set up this road section on the perimeter. So now what I'm working on, so this road section on the perimeter connects one of the 3 roads on this area, another in this area, and then the 3rd road, which is this one right over here, goes across this long bridge. And what I'm working on creating now is kind of an underground tunnel entrance. And basically I've just used Unity's new paint hole tool in the terrain to paint a little hole, and I've created simple mesh for the entrance. And right now this road is completely underground. So there's no exit point for it. If we turn off the terrain, we could kind of see what's underneath and what I've been working on. So I have a little spline system that's set up. And in it, one of the splines is creating this tunnel type of mesh, which is super optimized right now, but it doesn't have any texture, and I think I'm going to replace that. And the other 2 splines are creating these road sections over here on the left and the right. So I do have some type of reference that I'm using. Where's that at? So this is kind of my inspiration for this section. There's a little tunnel entrance which has a higher poly mesh, and that's kind of what I've started to create. And then once we get inside, we could see what the tunnel looks like. And it has a lot of details, but I believe I can use splines to create everything that's in here. So that's basically where we're at. We have the first road section set up on a spline, and we have the tunnel set up on a spline. So the first thing I want to do is get a texture on this tunnel. And what I realized when I created this little section right here is that it actually looks pretty good. And from a pro builder perspective, like, or an optimization perspective, it's not a super unoptimized mesh. So I think I'm going to duplicate this object and just use this little inside piece. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Let me go ahead and start that. Okay, so now that I have 2 Pro Builder meshes, I actually just want to keep the inside faces. I don't care about anything on the exterior. Let me go ahead and select those. All right, so with this face selection, I can just detach. Now I have a third object, and I'll just get rid of the shell. Okay. So I think I'm just going to export this specific section right here. Let me go ahead and center it. And export it and bring it in. And attach it to the spline. All right, so now I could take this object and bring it into the scene and create an actual prefab for it. And which material is this using? I don't know why it has 2 materials assigned. I think I need to fix that first. Okay, that's better. All right, let's re-export. So I'll just save this as a prefab, and now I can go back to my tunnel over here. And I'll replace the mesh that's on this spline. So I'm just going to actually rebuild the spline mesh component. Hey, what's up? Yeah, I actually shortened my name to TTGO sometimes when I was doing stuff. Or you could just call me Steve. That's my real name. Whatever you prefer is fine by me. All right, so now I can just toss this new prefab that I made, the arch inter. And now we have a texture on it, and it's super stretched, so let's just go into the channel and change the extrusion count. Let's set it to auto count and see what it does. So 70. That actually looks pretty good, I think. But there is some overlap, so I'm going to adjust this spline a little bit. Well, actually, I think I want that spline to be in the same position because I'm going to use multiple channels on it, but I think the clip range is global though. I was going to adjust the clip range, but I don't think I can. Oh no, it is channel based. Okay. Let's get back in here. So actually I have my mesh, but I messed up because apparently I don't see my original arch anymore, so I must have not duplicated properly. Let me reload the scene. Hey, what's up everyone? Yeah, the groups are usually silent until somebody says action, and then everybody comes to life. Action. Okay, so once I reload the scene, I should have my little entryway arch back unbroken, and then I'll have this new prefab that I created for the spline to reconfigure. I think I have a lot of heavy content in this scene right now, so every time I reload it, it takes about 30 seconds, unfortunately. Maybe closer to 45 seconds. Yeah, no problem. So just to catch everybody up, I started the stream and I described it, but I'll just redo it really quickly. So again, I worked on this tiny little island portion a long time ago, and I recently came to this project, or I recently came back to this project, and now what I'm working on is building the rest of the island. So I had 3 road sections that lead out into the mainland, and 2 of those sections are connected by this long road that we can see on the perimeter. And this bridge that's in the center is going to go into an underground tunnel. And I started this tunnel yesterday. This tunnel is going to be built using splines. So I have this entranceway that I set up and did an okay job texturing. I like the way that the ceiling or the roof area looks. I have 3 splines currently. Let me go ahead and disable the terrain so we could kind of see what's going on. So they're all going really straight, but the purpose of splines is to allow me to create waves and curves and just kind of bend it in whatever direction I like. So right now, this tunnel that is here, I figured out how to build it properly. So it's pretty optimized, but it doesn't have a texture. So I'm rebuilding this white section right now. The other section that I have is these two road sections. So I currently have 3 splines. One is creating the left lane, one's creating the right lane, and I could edit these splines. So if I go into edit mode, I could take these points and I can move it to kind of shape the road into whatever form I like. And I can do the same thing with the actual arch. I have too many objects that I'm not using in my scene right now. You could see, well, that should adjust. I don't know why it's not, but that's not a huge concern for me right now. Anyway, I'm building this tunnel. So I'm going to rebuild this white section right now. I just recently created a cutout of, let's see, let me double. So this area right here, I just cut out, and I'm going to use it to create this whole interior area. It doesn't have a roof, so we don't need a roof because all of this is going to be underground. So I just have geometry on the inside, which is the most optimized way of configuring it. Once I finish this whole tunnel system, I'm going to work on detailing it. But right now I'm just blocking out the outline. So if I re-enable the terrain, I have the entranceway set up, and then we could see I have some interior set up. Once I'm done with the interior tunnel, I just need to start building up the ground foundation a little bit. And that'll be kind of like the final phase of the block out. That's how I'll finish it. And then from there, I'll work on adding a bunch of details to it. Yeah, it's a big island. For me, this project is just a way for me to practice and learn and kind of explore new things. I'm primarily a programmer, so like working with artistic tools and testing the limits of different implementations, it's always really useful for me. And I always like when I push myself farther. The first city I ever built was super tiny, and that was a racing game I made a long time ago. And I've kind of built up to this. I think this is like maybe the 12th project that I've had that's racing related. And every time there were always performance issues. So going through that process, you just get better at dealing with those. And then you could kind of stretch your limits a little further. So I was actually able to get that island section that's over there in the distance. In application, I think last time I tested it, I was running 120 frames per second on my scene. So I feel like I can probably figure out a way to do that throughout the entire island, and that's actually my overall goal with this project. And if I'm able to do that by the time I finish the island, then I'm going to continue to build an open world game. And if I'm not able to do that, I'm going to figure out what challenges are stopping me from doing that. But now back to the task at hand. I need to replace this tunnel. I'm just going to actually remove the old stuff that I set up for it, and I'm going to rebuild the spline mesh with that new piece that I just showed. And then we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So now I just need to set the number of segments that it has to auto. And there I go. So when we look at it from top down, there's nothing being rendered. And it's only on the inside is where we have faces. So that was actually my major goal today. The next step is to just create this ground section, which is probably going to take a couple iterations. I think right now I could just toss a piece of ground on the spline and it should work. So let me actually just try that. But I kind of want to start with a Pro Builder mesh again. Yeah, 120 frames. I don't expect it to run at 120 frames at everybody's computer. But I have a higher end PC, so if it's running really well on my PC, then that means that an average PC should also be able to run at a stable frame rate. And if it doesn't, then that requires more optimization. And that's kind of when you go into graphics options and stuff like that. So I think for this ground, I'm just going to create a new Pro Builder shape. And it's just going to be a plane. I've only recently started to work with splines, and I really like them for creating procedural geometry like roads, and creating a tunnel with a spline system is kind of me pushing my skill set in a new direction. And if it works, I'll be really happy. I actually don't need to do... I don't know how this is going to go, actually, but I'm just going to create a pretty simple plane like this and just toss a simple texture on it for now. I have a feeling I'm going to replace this completely later. I have no planned release date for this game. I am currently just playing by ear. Making racing games was always, when I first started learning Unity, that's how I started. And I've just continued on with that as like a core project for my research and development. And sometimes cool Unity assets I come out of it that I end up making, and other times I just try to make a game. I think for right now, I'm just going to leave it something like that. That looks passable. I mean, what I'm really trying to do is get a publisher. So I work with an artist usually, and we usually just kind of do more professional work. So if we get a publisher, then we can get a team of people to work on this, and we could pay them. But without that, I think for me personally, I'm just always doing research and development. So let me export this now. I need to center this. I keep forgetting about that. Have I heard of Game Dev Unlocked? I have no idea if I have. I don't think so. I've heard of Game Dev Underground from Tim Reswick. Thank you. Um, right now for this project, personally, I'm just kind of prototyping and having fun. This is what I do to just build up my skills. I do want to take this someplace, but I'm not sure what I want to do yet. And because of that, I don't really need anybody to help with this project. But I will keep that in mind. What do I just do? What is going on with the spline? Why does it get the wrong material? Maybe I'll just create another spline. I feel like there's bugs with this. Like, where'd my mesh go? How did it get that material assigned to it? I'm not even using that. So I'm just going to keep them all as separate splines for now. Eventually I want a lot of these objects to be on the same spline, but I don't know if it's possible with this system. And I'd like to properly atlas the textures and materials. My biggest problem using this tool is that I feel like unexpected things happen and I don't know why. Like, where did my mesh go, for example? And how do I get it back without redoing it? Yeah, so there's that mesh back, and now I'll put the ground on this one. I feel like it's starting to look like a real tunnel now. Yeah, that's cool. Now, because they're all separate splines, the ground is not going to move with the actual tunnel. I recommend just keep making stuff for yourself, and then build an online portfolio. And maybe, oh, you suck at environment design and modeling too. Well, I do too. And I don't think that what I have here is anything great. I think an experienced level designer and artist would come in and look at my stuff and be like, what are you doing? But I'm a programmer, and that's how I get better. Oftentimes, what I end up doing with the artist that I work with is I teach him how to use a lot of these tools, and then he just comes in and does awesome stuff with them that I just don't think about because I'm always looking at things from a project development perspective and programming. But yeah, this feels good. I'm gonna just load up a car into this. Let me save the scene. I have a gameplay scene that has all of the actual physics stuff in it and scripting systems. I think this is where the player spawner is. Oh, there's a ton of lighting. Are you talking about in the scene itself or in the tunnel? There's definitely going to be a bunch of props and lighting added to the tunnel. My main goal is just to block it out and get the shape going. And the game looks completely different in the scene view than it does when you're actually like in the game. Like this Unity scene view has no graphics, for example. There's no post-processing in it. There's really nothing special. Yeah, where was that spawner again? Move this to the view. Did it do it? Yes, it did. This should be what's used. I have a few different spawn systems for different gameplay examples that I have disabled. I'm not sure which spawner the game's actually currently using. Okay, let's try that. So if the game's current configuration is actually using the spawner, which I think it is, the car should just spawn here. And then I could drive through the tunnel, and I could also drive around and back into the city from this tunnel. So you could see some of the lighting. Not what I expected. Anyway, did I do here? Did I leave an extra? I think I left an extra camera enabled. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this tunnel definitely needs some lights. And a bunch of props to make it look more interesting. And the ground plane needs a collision. So I'm probably not going to stream for very much longer tonight. I kind of want to come in and just do a little bit of something every day on stream. I've had a lot of people that were asking every time I posted a video. I feel like there was somebody different that was saying, "Hey, where's Midnight Streets? When are you going to do another devlog?" So I don't really have and want to do devlogs right now for Midnight Streets because it's just kind of in a limbo state. So until I'm ready to get back into devlogs for that, I am just going to kind of stream a little bit of what I'm working on and allow you guys to get a little bit of insight. Yeah, internet, I feel for you. That sucks. I could not live without internet. And I know a lot of people don't have the greatest internet. That's one of the things that I always splurge on and make sure I have really good internet. I don't know why I keep trying to play from the scene. I can't play from the scene. All I wanted to do was disable those cameras and put a collider on the ground. Where's that last ground spline? Give that a mesh collider. Save the scene, and now go back to the open world and drive around. Yeah, I think next stream I'm gonna be coming in and I'm gonna detail this tunnel, and I'm gonna be working on adding some lighting to it, creating a bunch of different props that will be scattered around, and yeah, just making it look good. Right now it was mostly about making it functional. Okay. Yeah, and that road is a little bit, I need to do a lot of aligning, but also this tunnel is not going to be straight. This is going to have a lot of curves to it. Maybe not a lot of curves, but I have a feeling it'll probably be S-shaped. Not very curvy. It's going to be like a straight S, so it'll probably be pretty long. I will also want to have an opening somewhere in this tunnel where you come back out and are able to see another part of the world. Oh man, fell off. I guess the walls don't have colliders either. But honestly, that wall is probably never going to have a collider because I think there's going to be some barrier that prevents you from getting to the wall. It's not really a bug, just missing a collider. Right now, when you're, at least the way I view it, when you're making stuff, you're kind of always experiencing bugs because you're still building it, so it's just not done. So I'll drive into the city so you guys can see what it looks like. I want to make the city be a little bit better visible from the distance, kind of. Like right now, the fog is hiding a lot of the building window lights. So these are a lot of the lights that I set up before. I built these interactable street lights and I super optimized them. I built a custom culling component that disables the physics unless you actually get close enough to interact with it and trigger the interaction. And also the lights are using different values based on your distance to them. I was just wondering where all the cars were. I wouldn't say the lighting is done. This is mostly like prototype phase. And I think the game is only going to take place at night. So maybe there's not really going to be a whole lot of lighting sources besides street lights and maybe parking lot lights and other building lights. I think the fog is a little too heavy right now. And also the landscape needs adjusting. That area is supposed to be the water. And it's supposed to be farther down though. So I don't know. I want the player to be able to see water from here when he's driving. Even if it is nighttime. I still need to work on this helmet camera view. I think it's okay, but it's not, I don't know. I don't think it's exactly what I'm going for yet. Yeah, there is going to be more traffic. I'm using a very old version of my traffic system. I think I've made about 12 or 13 updates since the version that I'm using, and it's been more optimized and improved, so that will definitely happen. I don't think I'm going to add pedestrians. I think pedestrians would be cool to have. From an asset store publishing perspective, I've had a lot of people request that I do a pedestrian system because they were happy with my traffic system and the performance it provided. But I don't feel like a racing game needs a pedestrian system. And I feel like if I ever want to finish this game, that I should not add pedestrians. Because what would end up happening is if I make a pedestrian system, I would probably refine it and publish it to the asset store. And then people are going to give me a lot of feedback, and it's going to take me like 6 months out of my life to work on and improve that system for what they would expect after paying me money for it. A big challenge that I have when I create Unity assets is I end up focusing on the asset development instead of my games development. And really, I want to make games, not assets. So like from an asset development perspective, I would love to make a pedestrian system. But from a game development perspective, I don't believe that it's absolutely necessary for what I'm trying to do. I'm just like driving into light poles because it's fun. So this is what it's like to drive around the game. I didn't really do much with the highway system yet. I guess I could drive off into that new area that I set up, but there's not going to be any lights over there. And I thought I rebaked occlusion culling, but I think I need to do it. I think I only did it in one of the scenes. So this is that new island now. Oh, the minimap gets to say, oh, the minimap's supposed to be on the car. That's interesting. Let me try to find that and turn that on really quick. I think I hooked that up. Yeah, so the minimap, it still needs some work, but it does show up on the car. That's just a 2D texture in there, which is why it looks better when I'm actually in the city. And there's no markers on this version inside the car view. There is markers on the outside version. So there's a player area, or a player arrow. I was gonna do a race because I did set up a race, but I don't remember what object I need to enable for that. Yeah, I don't remember where the racing stuff is. Here there. I think I could just enable this object. And somewhere, I don't know why I guess my pause menu's broken. That's interesting. I have a race over here. And another race. Are those even races? I don't even remember what I did here. Not where I remember them being. Yeah, the races were cool. It was really just like a proof of concept, and I didn't do too much with it. It doesn't look super awesome, but it worked. It was just one AI racer, and it was actually super easy. I want to redo the racing AI. Even though I built this city, I still get lost in it sometimes. That should be it, that glowing cube. So the idea here, this is an example of the event. You would just, it would obviously be bigger than just this cube, but you would drive over the cube and it would kind of be like maybe an area twice as big as the car or 3 times as big as the car. And you would get an option to start the event and you just start it. Yeah, there's definitely some bugs. Let me turn off error pause. I do have an error that's constantly running. And there's no traffic set up in this race right now. I'm just gonna let that guy get ahead a little bit. I want to actually create a new AI car system for the AI racers that use Unity's nav mesh. So these racers are using the same system that the AI traffic use in a way. Well, it's not the same, it's similar. But the point is that it's a waypoint-based system. And I think I want it to be a mixture of waypoints and nav mesh. That way the racers can be aware of other traffic very easily and kind of adjust their positioning as necessary. Because I don't really want to set up a waypoint route for each of the races. I think that could become pretty tedious. Which way do I go? I think I took a wrong turn somewhere. Oh, I know what I did. I changed the layout of the streets. The end of the race is like somewhere in here, but I think I put a building in there. Yeah, that's the end of the race, but it's inside of the building. There we go. Yeah, so that's the end of the race. So I won. Eventually, that other guy, I don't think he's going to finish because his waypoint route is probably going to lead him directly in a wall. And, oh, somehow he still managed to finish. He must have found a way. But yeah, so that's an example of a race, just a really simple race without anything looking fancy at all. And then once you're done with the race, it puts you in a different spot, I believe. And then you get the next event that's available. For some reason, that doesn't look like it's triggering an event. But yeah, I got the prototype logic all hooked up. Now I just need to build out the environment and give myself a place to make the game. Which is why I'm trying to come up with a bunch of cool ideas for the open world, so that it could be fun to drive around and have like different landmarks, places that the player will enjoy driving through. I really kind of want to create an underground tunnel where like you're going through water. I think that would be cool. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of, like, I'm not trying to make it super realistic or anything, so we'll see what happens. So I think the next step is for me to just actually figure out where this tunnel is going to have an exit point, which will probably be, I think it's going to split off into two, and it might be a network of a tunnel system. Like maybe I'll build a bunch of underground roads so there can be underground roads and above ground roads. That would be a little confusing from a mini map perspective, so I don't know how I would solve that. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of jumps. So my major plan is to build out the full environment. And then once I'm done with the environment, I'll do a lot of detail work to make it fun. And part of that detail work is going to be doing things like setting up jumps. I think just like Grand Theft Auto or games like that, there'll probably be something like 50 jumps. And if you find all 50 jumps, they're tracked in an achievement system. And there'll be other things like that was a race event that we did, but there'll probably be other types of events. And yeah, that's kind of as far as I've gotten so far. It's hard for me to really do that without the open world environment. So next step is to, and I think I did a decent job here. If I look at what I have here and I pull up that video, let's go back to the opening. So this is basically the opening of the tunnel in the video versus, try to adjust this. So like, I feel like I have the first part sorted out, which is the entrance, and I could always add more detail to this. I will probably put some kind of sign up here. I don't know if I'll add more geometric detail. Like this one seems to have a few different steps up. That seems like it could be kind of cool. I don't know if I'll do anything like that. And then going inside the tunnel, which is the next step, that's where they have all of this detail work. So I have the roads, and those are on splines, and those are all set. And I have the main shape of the tunnel on a spline, that's all set. So I could adjust the shape and the size of the tunnel and the shape and the size of the roads. I want to add some barriers in between. That's why the roads are splitting off from each other. And I kind of like the idea how this had a raised ground. So I think with these ground pieces that I have, I'll probably go back into Pro Builder and extrude those up so the ground is raised. And then that's a platform that kind of be like a maintenance area that the player can't drive on, but it is there. Maybe at some part, like there will be a ramp up one of them so you can drive up there. Maybe overtake some traffic or find a hidden item or something. Another achievement that you can do. And that's basically it. When I watched this video, I think this tunnel feels really cool. So a lot of what I want to get from this is like the details that they have. Start it again. So they have lights on the side of the wall. They have lights in the middle of the barrier. There's a few like caution cones in there. There's some air ventilation systems and some other street signs. And that's really it. So those are all the details I'll end up adding. Yeah, their tunnel looks cool. Mine is, it needs work. Anyway, thanks for checking this out, guys. And I think I'm going to take a break for now. I'll probably do some more work off stream, and then I'll come back in and work toward the completion of the tunnel in the next stream. Anyway, thank you for checking it out. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.